If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we're back. Welcome back, everybody, to Survival Dispatch. I am John from the Righteous Savages. All of you guys already know me. I'm Chris's co-host here on Survival Dispatch, and this weekend, Chris is getting a long-deserved vacation, and it's well overdue. The guy works like crazy to bring this content to you guys, and I only hope that I can hold this together long enough for him to return and take over his rightful position at the helm. But I am honored to be here tonight, and I hope you guys enjoy what is prepared for you. And tonight we have some very, very interesting news. It's kind of interestingly a follow-up to what happened, what we talked about yesterday, which was terrorism. And there has been a lot in that world, and none of it really bad news, but just news. So I am really excited to bring this to you. So before we get started, if you guys are interested in some higher level content, deeper content, don't forget to become an insider. And the insider, I'll talk about this a couple times tonight. It is the Survival Dispatch extra layer of information that we like to bring to you guys. It is a subscription service via Patreon. You just go to patreon.com/survival dispatch and sign up. It's $9.99 a month, and that will get you our survival guide, which is a 228-page guide. It will get you through any emergency situation that you could think of. It's a great resource for starting preps and just understanding situational awareness, whatever the situation is. So go over there. It also gives you access to our Signal chat, which has a large number of people dumping a lot of information into that chat. I'll be honest with you, I can't keep up with it. So I try to check in about once a day, but it's hard to keep up with it. It's just people constantly in there giving good intel and sharing things together. So I hope you guys, I hope you guys are ready for tonight, but don't forget to go over there and sign up today. So let's go ahead and get into our first story. And this is a big one. Just breaking today. Just one second here. This is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and he has posted, Godspeed to our warriors. Houthi attacks on American ships and aircraft and our troops will not be tolerated. And Iran, their benefactor, is on notice. Freedom of navigation will be restored. America under Donald Trump will never back down. He also posted our president Trump's post on True Social. So let's go through this real quick. Today, I've ordered the United States military to launch decisive and powerful military action against the Houthi terrorists in Yemen. They have waged an unrelenting campaign of piracy, violence, and terrorism against Americans, other ships, aircraft, and drones. Joe Biden's response was pathetically weak. So the unrestrained Houthis just kept going. It's been over a year since the U.S. flagged commercial ship safely sailed through the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, and the Gulf of Aden. The last American warship to go through the Red Sea 4 months ago was attacked by the Houthis over a dozen times. Funded by Iran, the Houthi thugs have fired missiles at U.S. aircraft and targeted our troops and allies. These relentless assaults have cost the U.S. and world economy many billions of dollars, while at the same time putting innocent lives at risk. Houthi attacks on American vessels will not be tolerated. We will use overwhelming lethal force until we have achieved our objective. The Houthis have choked off shipping in one of the most important waterways of the world, grinding vast swaths of the global commerce to a halt and attacking core principles of freedom of navigation upon which international trade and commerce depends. Our brave warfighters are right now carrying out an aerial attacks on terrorist bases, leaders, and missile defenses to protect American shipping, air, and naval assets. To restore navigational freedom, no terrorist force will stop American commercial and naval vessels from freely sailing the waterways of the world. To all Houthi terrorists, your time is up, and your attacks must stop. Starting today, if they don't, hell will rain down upon you like nothing you have ever seen before. To Iran, support of the Houthi terrorists must end immediately. Do not threaten the American people, their president, who received the largest mandates, one of the largest mandates in American history. The worldwide shipping lanes, if you do, beware. If you do, beware, because America will hold you fully accountable and will not be nice about it. I think that's probably one of the more decisive messages that I have seen coming from a president. And it is very, very important that we support this. I think that we all need to be aware that this is taking us into some waters that could lead to some war. But this is what happens when strength is not exuded on the world stage. And frankly, the last 4 years, there have been little to no strength shown on the international stage, with the walking puppet Joe Biden in the office of the presidency being controlled by someone else. And this is by design. They wanted to break down the Middle East. They wanted to break down the world. And thank goodness that we have somebody that can show strength in these situations. So real quick, this is from Fox News. Watch U.S. military jets before striking Iran-backed Houthis terrorists in Yemen. President Trump said the Houthis have waged an unrelenting campaign of piracy, violence, and terrorism against the American ships, aircraft, and drones. So this looks like FA-18s flying off of the carrier. I'm not sure what the carrier is, but this is American forces being brought to bear against a awful terrorist regime and backed by a horrible terrorist regime in a nation in Iran. So this is powerful stuff. Related, and this actually dropped early this morning. Another ISIS leader has been wiped out. Today, the future leader of ISIS in Iraq was killed. So President Trump is doing more than just one thing against these terrorist organizations on multiple fronts. He has relentlessly been hunted down by intrepid warriors. His miserable life was terminated, along with other members of ISIS, in coordination with Iraqi government and the Kurdish regional government. Peace through strength. And I think that's really kind of sums everything up that I've been talking about so far, is that we're seeing real strength, and we're seeing not the desire to get involved in wars that are never ending, but the desire to have decisive action when it is needed. There is a big difference in that. If we were going into Iraq in 2001, 2002, 2003, and Afghanistan to win decisive victories, to hunt down terrorists and not get involved in these muddy, mucked up wars, that's one thing. But unfortunately, the military industrial complex wants to feed itself. So anytime that a war is declared, or a war is, well, let's be honest. Let me back up. We actually haven't declared war since 1941. I know that's surprising considering how many wars we've been involved in, right? But we have not actually been involved in a war that we declared since then. but we have been involved in many wars that were not official wars, including the ones in Iraq and Afghanistan. But when we went in there, we didn't go in there with decisive action in mind. We went in there kind of blindly to the reality on the ground, and we paid a price for it. And then when we left, we just gave them more things to use against us in the future. And I think that it's awesome that we have a leader that is very, very much interested in not getting involved in foreign wars, but also not ignoring the threats on the foreign stage. And that's a big, big difference from what we have seen from both sides over the last 20, 30 years. So back to the top story. This is some videos and pictures of some of the airstrikes, possibly by the U.S. led coalition against Houthi location sites near Sana'a International Airport, with a number of explosions heard following a thick column of black smoke. So this is, if you want to know what a surgical strike looks like, that's what it looks like in a city. You have one smoke plume and flames coming out here, and the rest of the city is lit up. It's not under attack or anything like that, but that's what the surgical precision that our military can bring to bear when it is needed. It is very, very important, and it also leads us into, honestly, let's be honest, it leads us into a kind of a darker time, because we are entering some military action on the world stage. There's always consequences to that. And it's important that we understand that we need to be praying for our troops. We need to be praying for our nation, and we need to be praying for our president. And if you don't like that, that's just who I am. I'm a Christian, and I believe that God is in control of everything, but that also He needs us to pray and support that. So I'm just going to call on all of you guys that believe to do the same, to pray for our nation, to pray for our troops, and pray that we have decisive victory, and we don't have to put any boots on the ground, that we can wield the power that we have, the technology that we have, and bring a swift end to the injustice that these terrorist organizations have wrought on the world for years now, and have basically been completely and totally without a somebody to push back and somebody to stop this. Basically, a parent in the room. So yeah, that's the top news story. And I'll ask the chat. I'm going to be asking you guys a lot of questions because it's just me tonight, so I don't have anybody on a panel. So I'll be doing a lot more interaction with you guys tonight. So if you guys support these strikes, I want you guys to throw a 1 in the chat. And if you don't, you can throw a 2 in there. I don't think I'll see very many 2s, but maybe we will see a couple. But throw a 1 in the chat if you support Donald Trump's action against these terrorist leaders. Seeing a lot of 1s. I agree with that. So being the top news, there's some other things going on in the country right now. And I know that if you live in the Midwest, the Deep South, even in the Northeast, there's some crazy stuff going on right now with the weather. And so we're going to move into our next topic about what's going on. So there were some crazy storms last night. They went right over my house. I live in a very unique area. The city of Marion, Illinois, I live very, very close to that. Carbondale is probably a better known town because it's a college town, Southern Illinois University. And we were right in the path of these storms. And really, we were worried because several large tornadoes dropped to the ground just on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River. We were right in their path. And just at the last minute, it really, the northern, this was a big line of storms that went all the way up the United States, from basically all the way up in the Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf Coast, and this line of storms, and it really kind of almost split and went around our town. But I know there was a lot of other people that got hit, so we were safe. We never even lost power. A lot of wind and wind damage. We went out to the range today, and a lot of our targets had been blown over. A lot of just wind damage, but we didn't have any tornadoes directly in our vicinity. We had one about 10 miles north, and then one about probably 30 miles south west of us that had dissipated by the time it reached us. But there's been a lot of victims. So we're going to go through this real quick, and then we'll get to other news items. But I do think that this is something, because this affects all of us. And I know some of you guys are in these areas that are being affected, still affected. There's still tornadoes going on today in the deep South, in Mississippi and Alabama and places like that. And it's terrifying to see all of this going on. So let me bring up the first one here. Great follow for real-time updates is Ryan Hall, y'all. That's literally his name on YouTube. I was watching his stream for about probably 6 or 7 hours last night, and he's very, very on top of everything. Knows a lot about landmarks. I think he's a guy from the Midwest, but has a great team that does this. A lot of local meteorologists don't really give you a big picture. This guy does. But this is kind of crazy. Let me read this real quick. Tornado outbreak expected tomorrow. This was last night across Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. We have a rare high risk, the most severe level, threat level, multiple long track. And what long track is that excludes, if you guys know what the Fujita scale is, which is how they measure the tornado's destruction, ability to destroy things. It goes up from EF1 to EF5. If you ever see multiple long track, you see that's a key word. Long track means that they're excluding EF1 and EF2s. So almost every tornado you see in these kind of storm patterns are EF3 or higher. We saw several, like dozens of EF3s and several EF4s last night. I'm not sure there was any EF5s. I don't want to sound like I'm a meteorologist here, guys, but just kind of giving you guys a background. I get really nerdy and study things that fascinate me. So a lot of information going on up there. I don't know how useful it is, but so this was the storm system that moved through the Midwest, basically starting in the Kansas area, went through Iowa and stuff, and all of the Midwest, and it kind of shifted and it's headed down south. But you can see, the Alabama, Mississippi was in its path. And this next one will give you guys an idea of the damage. So this is, let me start this over. This is Tylertown, Mississippi. I'll expand this out. This is almost a couple minutes, but it's just drone footage. And you guys can see just how devastating this storm was. Just trees ripped, all of their limbs ripped off. The only thing left is the trunks. Just insane stuff. Debris from homes. You saw a couple of trailers over there, and this is just kind of showing some of the storm systems that we're moving through. So another thing we can pray for is the victims of these storms. I don't know where you guys stand on it. Well, I know kind of where you guys, but we're not going to talk about that. We all know what that is. But whether natural or enhanced or whatever we want to say about them, this is just devastating stuff, and people's lives get uprooted and changed forever. If you lose a home, especially a home that is a family home, anything like that, it's just really, really a sad thing. Let me fast forward here a little bit. You can see just forest wrecked by these giant, very powerful. When you see that done to a forest, because what forests typically do is they can actually slow down tornadoes. Where tornadoes pick up speed and severity is when they have open area and they don't have anything to eat. But they have to be really powerful to wreck a forest like that, and that's pretty crazy. So prayers out to those people for sure. for sure. Here is a video of actually one of the tornadoes in the like they're in a Dollar General market here.
It was in my truck. I fell.
So you can see it there eating just over there in the forest. And they use the term eating because it's literally, it's going down and destroying things. It's just crazy. Were any of you guys around the storms last night? Let me know in the chat if you guys were in one of these areas. I know, obviously I said I was in the Southern Illinois area right outside of Missouri. There were a ton of tornadoes. I used to actually live in West Plains, Missouri when I was a little kid, about 6 or 7 years old. My dad was a pastor there. And so I know that community really well. They got hammered by a tornado. Poplar Bluff, Missouri, one of the EF4s, I think it was an EF4, hit a trailer park. And I think last I heard more than 10 people were dead. I don't know the latest numbers. Trailer parks are like the worst thing you can be in when a tornado hits. You live in a trailer park, do not stay there when there's a tornado. Go find somebody with a basement. You'd be better off to go to Walmart and sit in there than you would to stay in a mobile home. More of these images, just insane. I'll go through these fairly quickly. Just insane damage and devastation to everything. And here's what was going on last night with this. And we'll move on shortly. I just kind of want to give you guys update. This is news, and that's what we do. We give you guys news. You can see the flashes of lightning. You can see the funnel cloud there in this video.
Right here. That was a full-blown.
Really, really crazy stuff. That was in Bakersfield, Missouri, which is really almost directly west of us by about 3 or 4 hours. So just crazy stuff. And here's a still of the funnel cloud. Now, this is a big tornado, so this could still be a ways away from where this was taken. A lot of these storm chasers, they get really, really close to get the data that they need to get to feed back to places like the YouTube streamers that are meteorologists and stuff. And they actually pay these guys to go in and do this stuff. My 9-year-old has been talking for the last couple of weeks. He wants to be a storm chaser. And then this happens. And last night he was asking me so many questions. So I was just a little side story about tornadoes before we move on. I was actually born 6 weeks after an EF4 went through Marion, Illinois. It was the last major storm that went through Marion, Illinois 42 years ago. 10 people died in that tornado. And there were, in the 1980s, I think it was like $17 billion in damage to the one town. Like it was insane. And my parents told the stories to me all the time when I was a little kid of dad. Basically, they walked out of Walmart. He looked over, saw the funnel cloud, got in the car, ran over to the car wash where my older brother was working, picked him up, took them all to the church, pulled all of the neighbors in the community into the church basement, and they watched the storm literally come down the street right next to the church. And they all survived. But yeah, I would not be here had they not have. So pretty crazy stories. And yeah, it does look like North Carolina. It's amazing how hurricanes, tornadoes, they all leave very similar damage. It's insane. It's insane. But I pray for everybody in this that we're in the path of the tornadoes and in these storms and still are dealing with them even now. I do think they are dissipating and starting head towards the coast, but it's pretty insane. In other news, pull this back up here. President Trump has signed the spending bill into law and avoided a government shutdown. This was something we talked about last night about them kind of, or maybe it was earlier this week, kind of the Democrats wanting to hold this up, thinking that they were going to win some political victory, and then realizing probably not. It's going to get hung around our necks for the foreseeable future. And so, yeah, it's a big win. I kind of get mixed on this stuff because I don't like when we increase spending in the country, but I do understand. I listened to a podcast with Mike Johnson, the congressional, the Speaker of the House, and talking about this is kind of one of those things that we're passing this so we can get to a clean level next year, because there's a lot of things mucked up. And I know we don't like to hear that as conservatives. We don't like to hear that as people who don't want to see our government spending. But it's also hopefully setting up for them to do tax cuts next year. And I know that that's already in play. And so this is a big win. And at this point, I'm almost for anything the Democrats are opposed to. So, yeah. So it's a very, very important things. In other news, and this is pretty insane. In the state of Washington, and they are similar to Illinois. They have let me read this, and then I will play this video. This has been a pretty hot topic today. At 2:15 a.m. this morning, the Washington Democrats just passed HB 1296. HB 1296 now allows schools to withhold information about sexual misconduct against a child. So think the Loudoun County in Virginia, the thing that led to Glenn Youngkin winning the governorship there, was started by this Loudoun County, where a girl was raped by a boy who identified as a woman, a mentally insane person. And so this bill, because the big thing there was that the father made a big stink at a school board meeting. He was actually arrested. And that's really what started the snowball effect of all of this happening. So HB 1296 allows schools to withhold information about sexual misconduct against a child. This bill strips parents' rights. If a sexual assault happens, they will not be immediately notified. I don't have to hear anything else about this to know that, wow, we need to do something about this, because this is gross and disgusting. The underlying bill essentially states that schools can wait 48 hours before they tell parents if their child has been involved in any kind of criminal action or if there is any sexual misconduct of the staff. We have seen a stunning amount of sexual misconduct and sexual assaults by educators in our schools just in the last year itself, including 2 principals in a school district, and that hid from parents a statutory rape of a 16-year-old female student at their school by one of their staff. Washington State Democrats voted against the amendment to HB 1296, which would require schools to immediately notify parents if their child is a victim of sexual misconduct. Parents are already speaking out on social media, saying that schools are never against never against this just passed. Let's watch this video. I think it's a couple minutes long.
The underlying bill essentially states that schools can wait 48 hours before they tell parents if their children were involved in any kind of criminal action or if there was any sexual misconduct of staff. We have seen a stunning amount of sexual misconduct and sexual assaults by educators in our schools just in the last year itself, including two principals in a Vancouver school district that hid from parents a statutory rape of a 16-year-old female student in their school by one of their staff. Now, as a parent myself, I would be disgusted and sickened to know if my kids had some kind of sexual abuse put upon them by staff, and I wasn't notified immediately of those things. Now, this happened actually in my kid's school district, where an 8th grade school teacher was grooming and having inappropriate sexual relationships with 8th grade boys. This is all too much commonplace, and parents deserve to know right away whenever there is any kind of criminal activity or sexual abuse or sexual allegations of staff that goes along with the safety of their children. For God's sake, please vote yes.
I don't know about you guys, but that is infuriating. There's no excuse for that, and it's a disgusting thing that we are looking at. And after all of those parents and people crying out to say no, they still passed it. Washington is the next state to really go deep blue, in my opinion. They were already very blue, but they're going to go deep blue to the level of my state, Illinois, California, New York, New Jersey. It's definitely a post-Christian world that we're living in. And, for those of you that, may have some differing opinions on that, definitely the values of Christianity are extremely important. I believe that they're essential to a government being able to run itself ethically, and the people to be able to have their voices heard. It's essential. And we have a unique country here that has allowed us to do this stuff and have our voices heard. And it's very, very important for us to keep that going. So, as I said last night, we have to stand up. We have to let our voices be heard and scream from the mountaintops. And that means even holding the current administration. I know, it's much better than the alternative. It is much better than what we were facing down the barrel of the gun of Kamala Harris being in control of our government on the heels of the human vegetable Joe Biden being in power, if you want to call it that. I really, we've got to hold everybody accountable and call balls and strikes. We don't have to say that Trump is, all knowing and all powerful, because he's not. He's a human being just like us. But way better than the alternatives. And I think that at his core, Donald Trump wants to do what's best for the American people. He's not enriching himself. I know the media wants you to think that the man has lost a ton of money doing politics. Maybe one of the only in U.S. history presidents that's lost a lot of money. So it's really, really important that we support the good and we call out the bad. But anyways, that's the end of chapter 1, and we're going to move into other news and go through that because there's a lot of other things, but the top items I think all show us that we really need to continue to stay in the fight. We need to, at very least, pray for the country, pray for our brothers and sisters in the military as we start to see these strikes against terrorist organizations ramp up. Pray for the victims of these storms and these weather events that are going on. And I don't know that it's done. It's been a crazy year weather-wise already, and there's even talk of maybe some snow next week, which is insane. It was like 70 degrees all week here in Southern Illinois. So it's just definitely been crazy and chaotic. But in the crazy and chaotic, that's when, we cling to our faith, we cling to our God, and we prepare. That's what preparedness is all about. It's not necessarily that we're just going to hold up in our bunkers, but it's that we're not going to get panicked when crazy stuff happens. And I think that's an extremely important thing. So let's go ahead and quick ad for Sawyer Products, and we'll move on into our chapter 2. So here you go.
The Sawyer Mini is the most versatile personal filtration system available. It's a perfect solution for backpacking, hiking, hunting, fishing, scouting, international travel, and emergency preparedness. At a mere 2 ounces, the Mini fits in the palm of your hand and can filter up to 100,000 gallons of water from any freshwater lake, river, or stream. The Sawyer Mini has a 0.1 micron absolute pore size. It was tested to 10 million parts of bacteria and 1 million parts of protozoa without a single breakthrough. This is the highest level filters can be tested to, so we're confident these are the highest rates of filtration available.
Okay, we're back here with chapter 2, and some of these are going to be linked to the first chapter, but some aren't. So let's go ahead and get started. This is from Markwayne Mullin, the senator. He's come to fame from some of the things he said during some of the confirmation hearings lately, and he has some interesting words about the future and what the Doge Act is actually all about. So real quick, let's watch this video.
We're getting a lot of questions about what's the difference between the House budget that they voted on last night, reconciliation budget package, whatever you want to call it, or the Senate version that we passed last week that was, the all-night vote-a-rama. By the way, because some people are calling it budget, some people are calling it reconciliation, why don't we call it the Doge Act? Because really this is about President Trump's agenda, about pushing forth his agenda, making the cuts, getting us healthy, making sure our defense is strong, making sure our economy is strong, making sure our energy sector is strong, making sure our military is strong, and then locking in taxes. So what's the differences between the two? The one we voted on in the Senate last week is just a very narrow package. It just dealt with defense, national security, and the border with energy in it. What the House passed was a much broader package, and it also included taxes. Now, the current tax policy, we're just looking to extend it. The problem is this only extends it for up to 8 years. The president, if you're paying attention today, just put out a Truth Social post that him and I spoke about earlier today about asking the House and the Senate to make them permanent. And I will tell you, I don't want to see these expire. And that's exactly what we're facing right now. If we don't do something, they're going to expire. Why play games with it? As a business owner, as investors, or even for your personal finances, having a surety on where your tax rates is going to be and locking in the tax cut that President Trump put in place in 2017 is what we need to be doing, not simply just kicking the can down the road, but make it permanent. So what's going to happen now, the House version is going to come over to the Senate. We're going to amend it. We're going to try to make we're going to make the tax policy permanent, and then we'll send it back to the House, and then they'll vote on it.
So it looks like that there are even more things coming through, and it looks like that the Senate wants to really solidify what we're going to do with these cuts and how we are going to, because all that's happened is the budget's gone through, the reconciliation bill has gone through the House. So now the Senate has to go through. Then it gets amended, goes back to the House for full passage. There's a lot of things that can be done in reconciliation. I know they've talked about the tax bill being done in reconciliation and all of these kind of things. That's historically how these big bills get put through. So I think, we have a lot of good people in Congress. I know I rail and rant against Congress all of the time. I think there's a lot of young congressmen and senators that are coming up that have seen the error of the ways of the old guard that is either retiring or dying off. The Dianne Feinsteins, Mitch McConnell's, Nancy Pelosi's, Chuck Schumer's. They're entering the end of their power. And I hope that some of these younger Gen Xers and late Gen Xers, early millennials are all on the right page with this, and I've seen a lot of hopeful things. So let's hope. All right, next we have this is Will Kirk. I don't know if you guys follow him. He's a great follow for Gun Law. Washington Gun Law is his channel on X, and he has a huge YouTube channel. He does a ton of stuff on the laws across the country. I know he's done a ton on the gun laws in Illinois, but he also ventures into other things as well. He's a very awesome conservative guy. In fact, if you go to our YouTube channel, the day after the election, we dropped a podcast episode with him in it. It's a very, very good episode where we talk about the future of gun rights and what we could be looking at. But here he is talking about how the carbon tax is working in Washington. As I said earlier, Washington is the next state to try and go full communist. In fact, I really don't know how much longer Will's going to stay in Washington, and that is his family grew up there, multiple generations. So let's watch this.
Okay, how about now?
You're in Washington.
All right, how about now?
You're in Idaho.
Hey, look at that. Magically, gas is cheaper. Okay, how about now?
That is so true. And if you live in a blue state, which I do, we can cross in any direction. We can go south to Kentucky. We can go west to Missouri. We can go east to Indiana. As soon as you cross the state border, gas is... I actually went to Indiana on Thursday, and gas was 46 cents cheaper than it is in Illinois because we have embedded carbon taxes and other ridiculous things like that. It just absolutely insane. And speaking of insane, the left all of a sudden is showing its ugly face and what it truly feels a lot more here lately. So this is from Breitbart, 48-second video, and then we'll react to it.
I would like for you to die of measles, of polio, of all the horrible diseases that living in this country, in this bubble of privilege and ignorance and morbid stupidity, you've had the luxury of not having to worry about it because it doesn't really affect you. I hope it affects you. I hope it affects your children and your grandchildren. I hope it guts your community. That will make my life meaningful and extremely happy.
Wow, what an amazing experience.
Did you get all that? Hey,
What an amazing experience that was.
you get all that?
I hope you die of all the horrible diseases and pain, and that will make my life have meaning. If that's not insane, I don't know what is. Like, that's just insane, crazy lunacy. And in a lot of ways, I think in most ways, I blame the propaganda media, the broken education system, the communist education system, the way that these people are indoctrinated to think that if we are supporters of conservative policies or Donald Trump or anything, Christianity, Judeo-Christian values, science, real science, not pseudoscience, all of a sudden we deserve to die the worst death known. I would say some people on the left would bring back crucifixions, which was historically in the Roman Empire the most excruciating form of death because it was long and drawn out. And in most cases, it took days to die. They would bring stuff like that back just for people on the right, just because we have a differing opinion politically or scientifically or morally. That's what you're dealing with. And probably that woman is an old teacher in a leftist district. And I say that as the husband of a teacher, but my wife is not like that. So I'm sure we've been aware, everyone has been aware of the boycotting that has been going on with Elon Musk and Tesla mainly from the left, because the left was all into the electric car. I'm still not sold on electric cars. But that's neither here nor there. But now Alex Jones always knows how to really touch the nerves of the left. So he decided to do this. So let's watch this, minute 5.
America is winning and taking the country back from George Soros and the millionaires, and the leftist terrorists are not successful and will not be able to stop us from removing the deep state. America is rising. America is standing with President Trump and Elon Musk. America is standing against the tyrants, and we will defeat you. You can burn up Tesla dealerships. You can engage in terrorism. But it's not going to work. Right here. It is not going to work. America. You are a bunch of crap. You're a bunch of terrorists. What think you about it? Ladies and gentlemen, these are the hateful people.
Have you ever seen any kind of right protest turn violent that quick? They're literally trying to pull him out of the car, trying to grab a hold of anything they can. We don't see that. One of my early memories. My dad was a very, very big advocate in the pro-life world when I was, preteen. He went to Wichita, Kansas, to a pro-life rally that was like 50,000 people. We went to the March for Life once, and it was incredible. But the one thing I remember about that, every time that happened, it was peaceful. It was people trying to convince people not to kill their children, and being willing to pray for them and talk to them and all of this stuff. It was very peaceful. We got involved in the Tea Party very early on, and that was in the early 2000s. I was doing sound work with sound systems at the time, and I would set up sound systems at these rallies to allow them to speak on the speakers. And we always left these parks and these town squares cleaner than they were. They were literally little old ladies in these crowds walking around picking up trash that was there before we got there, and we left them cleaner. And that's not what you see here. It's just a bunch of rabid leftists spewing propaganda, saying all of this stuff. And that's really the biggest indicator, and of course they always want to point to January 6th and the violence that happened on January 6th. That was very, very small in comparison to what's going on. I'm not condoning violence at all. But I also say there's a lot of really weird things that happened on January 6th that don't add up unless you start considering that the government was involved, the FBI. But it wasn't. It's never been like this when we do these kind of things. It's so crazy to watch. But anyways, so this is interesting. Benny Johnson just put this out. The Minnesota Senate Republicans just introduced a bill classifying Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness. Well, with the last couple of videos we've seen, we could probably say Trump and Musk derangement syndrome. Can we classify both of them as mental illness, or just even, could we just say right-wing moral Christian conservative derangement syndrome as a mental illness? Because I truly, the level of insanity that we're seeing in the world as a result of this is, it's unbelievable and really probably unprecedented. The left, they don't know how to react. It's the kids that never were taught how to learn from losing. They always got a participation trophy. I think that's what you're seeing. You're either seeing that, or some of those people at that Tesla protest look pretty old, probably before participation trophies, but they're probably the people that introduced them, and have no idea how to take a loss, how to be introspective. hey, maybe I should look at myself and see if I might be part of the problem here. Maybe my worldview is kind of messed up. Nope. You're wrong. Even though you're in the majority, you're wrong. And I'm going to be violent against you, and I'm going to stop you, and I'm going to spew hateful rhetoric at you. I'm going to call you a Nazi. Even though, what Trump's doing, trying to return more power to the states, trying to decentralize the government, that's kind of the opposite of what authoritarians do and Nazis. But anyways, and here's another interesting one. And I'll ask you guys a question on this, because there's differing opinions on this. I know we probably have much more libertarian bent here. I tend to be a very anti-pornography person because I know what it does to the human soul. But this is really an odd thing. So in the middle of this trade war, I don't know where that came from. Canada has nuclear weapon in trade war, ban Pornhub in the US. So here's what I'm going to ask you guys in the chat. If you think this is a win, so this would be basically, I think if I don't know a lot about Pornhub, but I understand, I think it's a Canadian based company, so they could technically ban their product from the US. So if you think this is kind of a win for us, if they do this, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat. If you think it's not a win, didn't put a 2. And if you think it's doesn't matter either way, put a 3. But yeah, for me, I think this is a win. It's kind of an odd win, but yeah, I think it's kind of a win. So, but just such an interesting thing in the news to see this. So, yeah. So the next one is a video. It's about 2 minutes long, and this is older millennial. You guys want to watch somebody who's he's a very smart dude. He started a TikTok account back in 2020. I heard him on a podcast the other day where he said he's on his 63rd TikTok account. He's been banned 62 times. So I forget what podcast it was. It was the first time I'd seen him on a podcast, but he said, yeah, I think it may have been Tim Pool, but he had been banned 62 times on TikTok and had to start a new account. And I think he's over 1 million followers. So he just keeps gaining the followers back. But this is him. He's got a question for liberals on why Elon Musk. Let's watch this.
Liberals, I have a question for you, and I'm willing to bet the vast majority of you don't have a solid answer. And that question is, why Elon? Like, why is Elon the focus of all your hatred and vitriol? Like, the reasons y'all give are like, he wasn't elected. Okay, I get that. But neither was Lee Zeldin, and he's currently dismantling your whole climate change agenda. Tom Homan wasn't elected. This dude's rounding people up in the street and deporting them. Lyndon McMahon wasn't elected. She just fired half the Department of Education. I mean, you could go after Kash Patel. You could go after Pete Hegseth. You could go after Kristi Noem or Howard Lutnick or Elise Stefanik. All of these people were not elected. And they're all doing things that you liberals have said you despise. So why Elon? Like, the only thing Elon is doing right now is auditing federal agencies. Like, he's trying to root out fraud, waste, and abuse. And somehow that has you more pissed off than anything anybody else in government is doing. Do you have a good reason for that? Hopefully by now in the video, you're starting to realize that the only reason you're so targeted on Elon Musk is because that money is something the establishment and the deep state need. They need that money funneled out of our government. They need that taxpayer money funneled to their special interest. And that's why they've made sure you're so targeted on Elon Musk. I mean, think about it for a second. You're actually at the point where you are attacking people for buying EVs. Like, your targeting of Elon Musk has even gone to the point that now you don't give a fuck about climate change. Like, you're now so for climate change that you want to destroy people's electric vehicles. The same vehicles that, like, 3 years ago, Joe Biden told you all you had to buy. Like, think about the actual insane actions you've taken over the last few months. You've resorted to firebombing EV dealerships. Why? Because Musk is finding fraud, waste, and abuse in the government? Like, do you understand how little sense that makes? Of everybody that Trump appointed, of everybody who's currently in our government that wasn't elected, you are attacking people and destroying property over the guy that's trying to save you money. You've officially become sheep for the deep state. And now you're apparently willing to go to jail on their behalf.
I think he brings up some very, very important points here. Why are we targeting the guy that was honestly a darling of the left? And all of a sudden they turned on him because he supports the Orange Man or wants to work with the Orange Man. Cheesecake. Just if you go to X and just look up the older millennial, you'll find him, and I believe that's the name of his account. So super good follow. He does a lot of videos like that. He's a cerebral guy. He's a deep thinker, and he brings it across in a kind of a comedic way. Really, I've been following him for a long time, and up until the other day when I found out it was on the 63rd account and he's been on multiple account iterations on most social medias, just because he puts controversial, things out, which they're all exactly like that. But yeah, I wondered why I would have to follow him every once in a while. I would have to refollow him. His videos would pop up, and I'm like, how am I not following this guy? But now I know, because he was having to redo his account all the time. Next, let's look at, I don't know if you guys know this, but the Pope is very upset about our immigration policy. So the media asked Tom Homan, not Mark Homan, Tom Homan, what he had to say about the Pope's words. So let's listen to this, 36 seconds.
The Pope this morning had some very harsh words for the...
I got harsh words for the Pope. Pope wants to fix the Catholic Church. I'm saying this as a lifelong Catholic. I was baptized Catholic. I was First Communion as a Catholic. Confirmation as a Catholic. He ought to fix the Catholic Church and concentrate on his work and leave border enforcement to us. He wants to attack us from securing our border. He's got a wall around the Vatican, does he not? So he's got a wall around to protect his people and himself, but we can't have a wall around the United States. So I wish he'd stick to the Catholic Church and fix that and leave border enforcement to us.
Boy, howdy. Boy, howdy. Absolutely. The Pope has tons of problems in the Catholic Church that need to be dealt with. I think there needs to be another reforming of the Catholic Church overall for it to have any chance, because it's completely getting infiltrated by the woke world. And there's really kind of a division within the church of, there are some very staunch Catholics in the cardinals ranks and things like that. But overall, a lot of the ones that get elected are, as Pope, are very much woke. But I completely agree with Tom Homan. Let us do our job, and you stick to yours. Quit sticking your nose into our business. All right, this is interesting. Hunter Biden flees to luxury vacation, dodges deposition with Secret Service protection. Hunter Biden escaped an ultra-luxurious Cape Town villa with round-the-clock Secret Service protection just as he was set to face a grueling legal deposition in California. Photos show Hunter relaxing in a $500 a night beachfront estate while claiming he is too broke to continue the lawsuit against Garrett Ziegler over the laptop from hell revelations. Ziegler's lawyers accused Hunter of fleeing and to dodge questions while taxpayers foot the staggering bill for elite security detail. Okay, let's ask the chat again. Do you guys think that Hunter Biden's Secret Service details should be pulled? I remember they were trying to do this to Donald Trump, but this guy is actually a criminal, an actual criminal, unlike what they were trying to say about Donald Trump. So if you believe that maybe we should have, to save the taxpayers' dollars, have this drug addicted pseudo artist, former businessman of his father, his Secret Service detail removed, put a 1 in the chat. And if not, put a 2. See how this goes. Seeing a lot of ones. I had no doubt. That's crazy, Kurtz. In your hood, huh? That's crazy. And the last story, chapter 2. This one's this is how evil works. So, how polyamory is becoming the new normal. So, this is, multiple partners moving back and forth, open relationships. I will tell you, I personally know some people that started open relationships while in a marriage. Not a single one of them worked out well. It is a broken and perverted thing. If you're not going to be faithful, don't get married, please. Because that's just destroying family. And if you have children, it just breaks it up too. But this is how evil works, slowly perverting young minds and inverting people's morals. That is absolutely what we're looking at, a broken, immoral society. And I hope that we can establish or reestablish some of these morals into our culture again, because man, we really need to get back. All right, we're going to go on to chapter 3 after this quick video from Flex Industries on their trigger.
AK Flex. AK Flex. The crazy part about this thing, it can fit in all platforms. This right here is in a 9mm. We running in the 7.62, 5.45, short, even in the Draco, the long 16-inch. AK Flex, baby.
Okay, so that's from Flex Industries, and they make a great trigger, new AK trigger. I'm hoping to get one for one of my AKs. I have a MPAP or M70 Yugoslavian AK. Friggin' fantastic, amazing weapon. I customized it, built it all out, and I'd love to have a really nice trigger because it doesn't have the best trigger. AKs generally don't. So definitely looking forward to getting one of those. All right, let's move into the fun stuff. I always enjoy this stuff. So we'll start off with something hilarious, and some of you guys are going to get this right off the bat. If you know, you know. Canadian bacon. I mean, this show's been around for like 25 years, so I don't think anybody will have trouble getting this one. And this is one of the accounts I follow on X. Defiant L's. It's a pretty funny account to follow for memes and just roasting people when they expose their losses online in glorious fashion. When you served dutifully in the great meme wars of the 20s. And the great never gets old Leonardo DiCaprio meme. So let's see here. And you guys remember last night we shared the video of Bill Burr calling Elon Musk a Nazi. Here we go. Honey, did you and your boyfriend see me call Elon Hitler? And we'll get to this later. Doesn't that kind of look like Bill Burr? It's really interesting. This is a meme that's been going around a long time, but I think that might be Bill Burr. So yeah, pretty interesting. This next one, a little bit more serious of a note, but this is fascinating. Let me get this queued up for you. Here we go. So this is a podcast. Hannah Faulkner, who's a very young conservative girl, and I forget this guy's name. He's been kind of all over social media lately, but listen to this. And we've talked about this on Survival Dispatch, but listen to this.
Last 52 years of documented school shootings in America. conducted by teenagers. Do you know 100% of them were on either an antidepressant or on a barbiturate drug for anxiety? And every one of these antidepressants, including Prozac, Zoloft, Xanax, you name them, all these anti-anxiety drugs and antidepressants, do you know every single one of them are published to increase the risk of suicide behavior and actions, and I quote, lead to violent and homicidal actions. 100% of all school shooters, for the documented 52 years of history, we've been tracking them and studying them, 100% of all the shooters were on drugs that are published and prescribed by your medical doctor, brought to you by CVS and Walgreens and others.
Big pharma is a big problem. Doctors do not treat root causes. Mental issues can actually be caused by what you eat. And when you think about the stuff that's in our food, eat that for a long time, it can mess with your chemical makeup in your brain, heavy metals, all of these other things. And what's the first thing a doctor wants to do when you're when you are feeling anxiety or depressed? It's not, hey, do you exercise? Do you eat right? Do you consume too much social media? Do you sit around and do nothing? Are you lazy? Are you fat? They don't ask those questions. In fact, they're not allowed to ask those questions in some cases. What's the first thing they want to do? Stick them on an antidepressant, which dulls our senses and eventually, over time, leads to suicidal ideation, or in worst case, not just killing yourself, but suicide by cop via school shootings, all of these kinds of things. The history is clear, and there's only one thing that's a correlation between all of these. It's just insane, in my opinion. And what are we talking about? Oh, let's take the guns away and give them more drugs. I tell you, Big Pharma may be the most evil industry in the history of mankind. Okay, moving on. Here's some laughs for you guys. Chuck Norris is going to tell a story about a tiger and the reaction when there was a growl heard.
And I bent down and I petted him, and all of a sudden you heard this like that. So the trainer says, "Get up very slowly and back up." So the tiger did. He slowly got up and backed out.
Chuck Norris, just an amazing national treasure. Hilarious. So, okay, here's one for you guys. And this is a tough one. And honestly, I struggle with this. I know what my answer is, but I struggle with this. Okay, so let's start and kind of go 1, 2, 3, 4. Of these 4 options in the chat, what would be your answer? And I'll tell you mine in a couple seconds. But this is 1, 2. Blue is 1. Black is 2. This looks like a fish oil is 3, and red is 4. Let's see what you guys think. You can only keep one of these things. And so far, everybody's got the same answer as me. So, Aaron James, great. Yeah. So, yeah. So mine, this was really hard because these two obviously have to do with, human life, morality, and dealing with mental illness. This is something I really want personally. Like if I was just picking for myself, this would be it. But Rob Wright, you've got the right answer. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your lips to God's ears. And I thought transitioning kids and abortion, those were kind of neck and neck. But I have to go with, you can't transition kids that have already been killed. So I would go with the one that affects the unborn and the most innocent among us, and that would be abortion. It's very hard as a Christian. I don't think there's a person in the world that could claim Christianity and claim to be pro-choice or pro-abortion. Those things do not exist together. It's broken, but just an interesting thought experiment, because this is one of the, you always see these all over the place, and this is one of the more difficult ones, I do have to say. But in the end, I pull with the sanctity of human life. So here we go. I did some financial planning, and it looks like I can retire at 97 and live comfortably for 11 minutes. 2025, y'all. That inflation, like falling off a cliff. Here we go. This is a good one. You know, the American people have had enough when this AI video of Senator Elizabeth Warren running from the FBI with bags of cash gets 45,000 likes. We are sick of politicians and filthy rich insiders trading, laundering our money to NGOs and selling us out. 100%. AI is getting really good at these too. Okay. California inmate has beaten to death 2 child molesters with a cane while in prison, authorities say. And I'm going to salute that man. More. You're already in there. Just keep racking them up. We're cheering you on, buddy. Here we go. What people say they hate. So if you're looking at a map, California, Oregon, Washington. What people really hate. Look at this. And that's true. You get into this area in California, up into the northern country in California, it's as red as Southern Illinois, and Southern Illinois is extremely red. Oregon, in fact, parts of Oregon are trying to break off and join Idaho. There's actually a legal battle in the legislatures. Idaho has already accepted this, and Oregon is fighting back because tyrants don't like to lose people. They would rather enslave them than they would lose them. But a lot of these things, and I'll tell you this, in my own state of Illinois, there is, I think, 33 or 34 states that have all are counties, not states. 33 or 34 counties in the southern part of Illinois have all voted to leave Illinois and join Indiana. Indiana, just a few weeks ago, actually voted in their legislature that if Illinois would let those counties go, they would gladly accept them as a part of Indiana. This is happening in multiple places around the country. Now, do I realistically think that it could happen? Not really. However, if one happened, the precedent would start to be set, and you would see this stuff start to really snowball in a big way. So my hope is that we can shrink these states down to just these tiny little population centers in these big cities, and everything else can go red. On a side note, and I didn't actually put this in the brief tonight in the sit rep, but Tim Pool played a Elijah Crane video the other day, or Elijah Klein, not Crane. I apologize. Elijah Klein is a left journalist, a pretty leftist guy, but he was actually sounding the alarm in a documentary that he did. I don't remember the name of it, but at one point he said, at the current trends that we're seeing over the last 4 years of people moving out of blue states and the kind of people that are moving out of blue states, it's actually not leftists. It's actually people that are just fed up. It's people like me that like, I want to be able to have my guns without fear of the state police knocking down my door and taking me and hauling me off as a felon when I've never committed a crime. I had a top secret clearance in the military for 12 years. I haven't even had a traffic ticket in a while. Now I know I was pulled over the other day, but I didn't get a ticket. So I'm still good. It's been over a decade since I actually got a ticket. I will say, man, we need to we need to really send a message to these people. And what's going on? Getting back to my story, what's going on is if they stay at current trend levels, which I believe they will, because what's going on in the blue states, they're just entrenching themselves more. Like the state of Washington, Illinois is going to have the highest taxes in the country next year. Like multiple articles came out about this last week. When all the new tax rules come in from Illinois in 2026, January, we will have the highest taxes in the country, in the Midwest. You know, in an industrial state in the Midwest. It doesn't make any sense. But it's because these leftists are just trying to entrench themselves more, dig their feet in. They're not learning from the losses. They're just trying to get more and more tyrannical. And so at current trends, by the year 2030, the Democrats will not be able to actually win a national election, because it won't matter if they win Michigan, because the shift is already happening. So the 2030 census, and this is why we need to get these things in order so they can't lie on the census. The political shift in the Electoral College will make it nigh impossible for the Democrats to win a national election. They know this, guys. That's why they're fighting so hard, is because they know it too. And this was a leftist that put this information out. Here we go, from earlier in the stream. Here you go. The resemblance is uncanny, isn't it, guys? Is this Bill Burr? I mean, yeah. If you think this is Bill Burr, put a 1 in the chat. This is, if not, put a 2. But yeah, I think this is this might be Bill Burr. This next one is just something kind of fun. It's a little weird too. But this is one of the craziest tattoos I've ever seen. So it's a mozzarella. That's crazy. It actually looks like it's being pulled apart. It is weird. Okay, just a couple more left in here. This is a comedian. I don't know this guy's name. But this is pretty funny. So this is talking about the plane crash that happened where the plane flipped over on the runway.
You see that Delta flight that like flipped over? Apparently it was a female pilot. I didn't bring that up to say like women can't fly. That's dumb. That's not even accurate. She flew perfectly and nobody died. You know what I'm saying? What I am saying is she can't drive. Because she was doing really great. As soon as the wheels came down, I don't know what she was doing. As soon as wheels went down, she's doing her makeup, texting, and it just flipped over. I was like, "You're doing so good."
Oh, I thought that was very, very funny. Oh, so. And one last, I think this is the last video. No, there's 2 more videos here. So let's start off with an inside conversation that we did not hear between Vladimir Zelensky and JD Vance. So let's take a look at this. This just surfaced. Wanted to bring this breaking news for you guys.
I actually felt retarded, like really retarded. I mean, I brushed my teeth retarded. I rode the bus retarded. Damn. In a weird way, I had to sort of just free myself up to believe that it was okay to be stupid or dumb.
To be a moron.
Yeah.
To be moronical.
Exactly. To be a moron.
An imbecile.
Yeah.
Like the dumbest motherfucker that ever lived.
In a weird way, it was almost like I had to sort of fool my mind into believing that it wasn't retarded. And by the end of the whole thing, I was like, wait a minute, you know? I flushed so much out. How am I going to jumpstart it up again? It's just like,
yeah,
right?
You was farting in bathtubs and laughing your ass off.
Yeah.
You serious? You don't know. Everybody knows you never go full retard.
What do you mean?
You know any retarded war heroes? You went full retard, man. Never go full retard. You don't buy that? That's Sean Penn. Remember? Went full retard. Went home empty-handed.
So yeah, real quick, this was a conversation that happened after the White House incident. So I guess he started to see the error of his ways. He went full retard, man. Okay, here's the last one. Charlie Kirk on the Whatever podcast. If you guys aren't familiar with this podcast, it's kind of hit or miss. It's very much in the red pill world. But this is Charlie Kirk. Really, so a background of this podcast. It's a guy who brings local girls from colleges, college age girls, and sometimes OnlyFans girls on to talk about why their feminism is very important. So this is Charlie Kirk, kind of debunking the wage gap argument, but using a very unique analogy to do it. So let's watch this real quick.
Let's say there was a company that employs OnlyFans models, and then they take a cut and they do all the work for you, okay? And they employ male and female OnlyFans models, and they both work 10 hours a day. The female OnlyFans models will earn $1 million a year for the company, and the males will only bring in $100,000 a year for the company. Should they have to pay both of them the same because it's equal work for equal pay? Or should they give more money to who's actually bringing money to the door, the women for the company?
I don't know. I don't have like an opinion on like that kind of stuff. Like,
I think you both know the answer. You're just afraid to say it. That
no.
that
Like-
women should be able to earn what they earn, and they provide.
So yeah, I think he broke some brains when he asked that question. It's very true. And you guys, I don't know how many of you follow sports. I don't follow sports as heavily as I used to in my younger years. In fact, I've almost checked out of all professional sports, but I did read about the NBA and the WNBA and how these WNBA players are demanding that they make the same amount as the male players, even though all of their salaries are already paid by the NBA. They already are getting subsidized by the NBA because the NBA has a massive audience and the WNBA does not. And then when they get a star like Caitlin Clark, who was probably the first female basketball player to really draw crowds, like their revenue skyrocketed. But what did they do? Because she was a white girl, they would try and injure her on the court, talk crap about her, do all this stuff. And she did some stupid things by bowing the knee to the woke mob a couple of times. But that's what they do. You know, when they really have the opportunity to market a star, they just sit there with their hand out and say, "More money, please," instead of actually getting around the star because she's white and she's not the stereotype for the WNBA star. So anyways, that is it for our stream tonight. So I know we're a little bit shorter tonight, but you go through stuff faster when we don't have a full panel to talk about everything that's in here. So you kind of see how how it goes typically with the brief. So, but real quick, we always like to give you guys marching orders. We always like to give you guys things to think about and things to apply to your own lives. So, first off, I think one of the things, and I said it at the beginning, I'm going to reiterate it here. With all of the things that are going on in the world and in our country, we need to be praying. The storms, the foreign engagements, the cleaning out of corruption, because I'll tell you this, it's going to get ugly when these things start being cleaned out. And we've got to pray for protection for the people doing it, and pray that people will be awakened to what's going on. More people will be, and will demand that the corruption stop. The one time, I will say this, the one time that Jesus, when he walked this earth, showed violence was when he saw corruption. And that was in the temple. And he showed physical violence against that corruption. That's how much God hates corruption. It's rampant in our government. So pray. That's the first thing we can do. Educate ourselves, stay on top of the news, be careful the media sources that you use and that you follow. Now, I'm not saying, I do think that we should read both sides propaganda or news stories, because that's the only way you really get a balanced view. And that's the only way that you kind of know what the other side's thinking and what they're planning. And actually, they say there's tons of studies that show that typically conservatives will consume leftist news just to understand where the battle lines are. And leftists never read conservative news. So that's an advantage for us. So continue to do that. Obviously, take everything that they write with a grain of salt. If you are in an area where storms are coming, make sure you're prepared. If you want to know how to be prepared, if you're new to the preparedness world, sign up for the Insiders on Survival Dispatch. It's a great resource. And I would highly recommend that you guys do it, because we have our survival guide that is chock full. It's like, I think 228 pages. It's chock full of good information that will help you get out of just about any kind of scenario that you could think of. So I would highly recommend that as well. And I would say the other thing is to just remain vigilant. Do not buy into what the media is saying, and that goes for right and left. So I would really encourage you guys to do that. Stay involved with Survival Dispatch. We're here every night, Monday through Sunday, at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and get on our show. We always try and have the latest news. There are literally hours worth of work going to these shows during the day, and it is very, very important. And we appreciate you guys that are loyal fans and loyal contributors to this cause. We're going to disseminate information to help you guys know how to survive any situation as it comes. And I'm going to go ahead and throw a shameless plug out for us. We have a Substack, and been writing a lot of articles. We have a lot of training videos coming out. So I'm going to put this link in the chat. So after the show wraps, if you guys wouldn't mind going over and subscribing, it's completely free to subscribe. And we put all of our stuff out for the free level. However, if you want to support our work, we do have paid options that are available. No pressure, but we're going to have some things in the future behind the paywall. But right now we're trying to put out all of the stuff just to show you guys the quality of things that we're going to be putting out. We write articles, we'll be putting out videos, and very, very important information. Also, our podcast is really getting ready to start back up full tilt. And we have a lot of guests, some that you've seen on Survival Dispatch. It's a little bit different format. It's a little bit more like a Sean Ryan style. But that's ramping up at the end of March. So look for that. And we're going to have special segments in our paid subscribers. It's going to be very, very cool, the information we're going to be bringing you. But at very least, if you guys don't mind going over and signing up for our free, and here is the link. I'm putting it in all the chats right now. But that is the end of our show tonight. And I appreciate you guys hanging out and spending your Saturday night with me. We'll be back tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll be hosting again. I will have some on the panel. I know S2 is going to be back, and probably a couple of other people. But until then, you guys stay vigilant, be prepared, and God bless America.
We're going to have a country that's unified, but we're going to bring everybody together. We want it all back.